Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Athletic Greens.
With so many stressors in life, it can be difficult to maintain effective nutritional habits and to give our bodies the nutrients that it needs to thrive. Busy schedules, poor sleep, exercise, not exercising, the environment, stress, or simply not eating enough of the right foods can leave us deficient in key nutrients. And that's where Athletic Greens can help. That's how I use Athletic Greens. It's a life-changing nutritional habit. They have a daily all-in-one superfood powder that is a nutritional essential. I just scoop it. It comes with a really cute little scoop. I just scoop it and drink it.
I'm going to say this right now. It tastes amazing.
And yes, it even tastes good. It's by far the easiest, and it is the most delicious nutritional habit that you can add to your daily routine today to empower yourself towards building better habits. One tasty scoop of Athletic Greens has 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients. It's got a multivitamin, a multi-mineral, which is very important, probiotic, green superfood blend, and more. They work together to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet. And right now, Athletic Greens is doubling down on supporting your immune system. They're offering our audience a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase if you visit our link today. You'll basically never have to buy vitamin D again. And if you don't know why vitamin D is so important, Google it. Get 2021 to be the year that you have a simple, sustainable nutritional habit. Athletic Greens.
Simply visit athleticgreens.com/breakdown and join health experts, athletes, and health-conscious go-getters around the world who make a daily commitment to their health every day. Again, simply visit athleticgreens.com/breakdown and get your free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs today.
Got married once. It was, I wouldn't recommend it, but I wore like a wedding dress, but I had to wear combat boots with it. And
I wore boots to my wedding.
You did?
But we don't want people to think that if you want to wear combat boots to your wedding, that means It's not a good idea.
No, please wear combat boots to your wedding.
In fact, we're releasing our own line of combat boots for those people who know that they shouldn't be getting married, but do it anyway.
Hi, I'm Mayim Bialik, and welcome to My Breakdown. This is the place where we break things down so you don't have to.
It's Mayim Bialik's Breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you, because you know she knows a thing or two. And now she's gonna break down. It's a breakdown. She's gonna break it down.
Today we're going to be breaking down really a smattering of fascinating things with a pretty darn fascinating person, Hayley Williams. Many people know her from Paramore, or maybe you know that she's the one who sings, "Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky like she starts?" That person. She talks about integrative health. She talks about going to like a therapy retreat where like you couldn't do anything except heal. And like, it's fascinating. I can't even describe what we're breaking down. We're blowing her mind in this episode is what we do. Do you have anything to say, Jonathan? Oh, I have to introduce you.
I keep waiting. You keep looking at me. Should I do my own introduction?
I'm sorry.
Don't worry. But first, let me introduce you to my favorite shooting star, Jonathan Cohen. Oh, hi, Mayim. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Jonathan. How you doing today?
I'm pretty good.
I was going to introduce you as my personal armor.
Oh, that's a good one, too.
A shout out to Hayley's album, Petals for Armor.
I'm excited for this convo. Also, you know, if you have a tendency as a listener to drop off early, you don't want to miss our little moment of family constellation near the end.
Oh my gosh.
Mayim goes nuts. Intergenerational trauma. I don't want you to think that we just spoke to Hayley and she was like, "Oh, I went to a retreat and I healed so beautifully." That's not it at all. That's not her vibe. She's real. We
talk about our weddings.
Oh, it's true.
Like she and I essentially had the same weird wedding experience.
And I think we should have a caveat right off the front that we are not anti-wedding. We are not anti-marriage. Marriage is a beautiful thing. This happens to be a podcast, this episode, where 3 people who had marriages and then no longer have them. Mayim corrects my little terminology at some point in there. And so I want to make clear that we are not bashing marriage. No.
But it is very interesting when you meet, for me as a woman, it's very unusual to meet women who talk about weddings the way she and I do. It's very comforting. And I actually said a bunch of things that she was like, wow, this is a very, I really like this connection with her. I would totally want to hang out with her.
I joked that she came on, and in the first few minutes, she was like, don't know why I'm here. Don't know how I got to this podcast. Don't know anything about these two jokers.
Everyone feels that way. Everyone feels that way when they come on and talk to us.
But by the end,
we were literally having family therapy for the three of us.
we won her over, and now we're going on tour together.
Hayley is a singer. She's a songwriter. She's a musician. She is best known as the lead singer of the band Paramore, which she started in high school, I believe. Yes, with a bunch of dudes.
Homeschool, she said.
Yeah, she also mentioned that. She's from Mississippi. Happy to meet someone from Mississippi because I learned how to spell it by saying Mississippi.
All right.
And then she grew up in Nashville from, I think, 11 on. Paramore has 4 top 20 Billboard 200 albums and a Grammy for their hit Ain't It Fun. As a solo artist, she recorded Teenager for the cult movie hit Jennifer's Body. She's also collaborated with some really awesome artists. She was, as I mentioned, featured on the single Airplanes by B.O.B., which peaked at number 2 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100, mostly because I wouldn't stop listening to it. The sequel to the song, Airplanes Part 2, featured new vocals from B.O.B. and Eminem and was nominated for Grammy for Best Pop Collaboration with Vocals. She's been a real outspoken advocate of receiving mental health care and love. Oh, she also, I should say this, she has a hair dye company.
She has amazing hair.
And her hair dye company is called Good Dye Young, as in only the Good Dye Young. Billy Joel song.
Very clever.
What color will her hair be today? Let's find out. Welcome, Hayley Williams.
Break it down.
Hello, Hayley. How are you?
Hi. I'm great. I just woke up from a nap. I feel like that's a rare occurrence, so I'm feeling pretty...
I'm a napper myself, so I do
Are you?
appreciate someone who...
You undersell yourself. She could be the world's best and most experienced napper.
I need tips, man.
Well, I cut out caffeine. I actually wasn't a particular caffeine addict, but the tea that I enjoyed drinking every day happened to have caffeine in it. And I still liked napping, but I did cut out caffeine during COVID because I was like, a global pandemic's not hard enough. Let's cut out the drug. So anyway, but a friend of mine who recently realized I don't drink caffeine, she's like, oh, now it makes sense. You're always napping. It's like, I just like napping.
Perpetually tired.
Yes. Well, good morning and welcome.
Thank you.
We're really happy to have you. I didn't know what you'd look like because I've seen many pictures of you and you look strikingly, stunningly different in every picture I've ever seen of you. Like, it's not just the hair color, which can change, but you do really creative, beautiful things with makeup and lighting and just like, it's really cool. So this is what you look like, obviously, with a baseball hat after a nap. So.
Yes, this is exactly, this is what you get. This is what everyone gets after this last year.
Yes, everything is on the internet about you, but maybe you can give us a little thumbnail sketch of kind of where you grew up and sort of like what you were, like as a child. And in particular, was there anything special about you in terms of mood, in terms of, anything that might indicate some of the things that that we are going to talk about in terms of mental health?
Oh, man. Well, actually, there were probably a lot of signs. It's just the world wasn't where we're at today. Culture wasn't where we're at today to talk about some of them. And I was obviously super young, so I think my awareness of everything was different. But I mean, my entire memory of childhood revolves around the idea that I knew I had to get out because I lived in a small town in Mississippi. I was born there up until about 11 years old. I lived there with my mom, and my parents were separated. And I just was like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like I woke up in the wrong place, and I gotta go. And I had like a bad stomach. Like I always if I had to go to like a birthday party, I just would be in the bathroom the whole time. Like I'd be like, I don't want to bowl in front of anyone. I don't want to give we didn't have a lot of money. I was like, I don't want to give a gift to this rich kid that I just showed up to their birthday. But I was just a nervous kid and shy and just apparently about to shit my pants all the time.
Well, we call that a nervous stomach. It's one of Jonathan and my favorite indicators of like when people are like, I don't believe in mind-body connection. It's like, really? Have you ever known someone who loses the contents of their stomach before insert important event? That's called the mind-body connection.
That is exactly it. Holy shit, man. And I only just thought about this recently because I was talking to someone about it and I was like, yeah, like anytime my intuition is like, if something really is irking me or nagging at my gut, like a gut feeling, I'm just like, I don't know. I may shit my pants. I'm like, I don't know if that's normal or what. And then I remembered, I was like, oh my God, I was in a pretty unhealthy home life, as a kid. Like no one, it just all starts when you're a kid. It all starts there.
And were you musical in particular?
Yeah, I was. I was really shy though, like I said, so I would keep to myself about it. I wrote all the time to myself and would sing to myself. I played some instruments, like I played the drums, which isn't really something you can keep to yourself, but thankfully my dad was cool with that. I was musical, and a lot of it I got from my dad's side. My grandfather and my dad both sing and play things,
What was your journey like? So where was Getting Out to?
Oh, Jesus. I saw a Missy Elliott video when I was 8 and I was like, I gotta go there. Cause like, I am not in the right place. It's like, I knew it so deeply in my body that it felt ancient. I was just like, this is wrong. And I saw Super Duper Fly, like that had come out, and one of those music videos was on MTV, and I was like enamored by her, and she was like alien, like the way she carried herself wasn't really a gender, it wasn't like a thing, and I felt so not, I didn't want to be girly, I didn't want to be what I think a lot of in the South, it's like, you go to fucking cotillion and all that stuff. And I was like, well, I'm going to be like Missy Elliott, so I don't need any of this. And Getting Out was ultimately when my mom and I ran away to Tennessee. We knew some people that lived in town here and in Nashville. And she was in an abusive relationship with my stepfather back in the day. And this is where we came. And I've been here ever since.
Wow. So you never had a New York stint, an LA stint?
I did have an LA stint, actually.
Tell us about
to get away with it. It was like 3 years of my early 20s.
How did you find it?
Well, a lot of my friends live on the east side. I lived in West Hollywood, literally between Sunset and Hollywood on Ogden.
Yeah.
And I really loved my neighborhood because it was near where they filmed Halloween, and that's where I would walk my dog. But I just was very lonely, I didn't have like a real community in LA.
You did start youngish. How did you find kind of navigating, that music space for you, especially as a woman, especially as, a woman in a culture that has a lot of kind of ideas about what women should be? What did that feel like? And did you have a notion of that like impacting either self-image or kind of how you saw your mental wellness?
I made myself small a lot and kind of dumbed down any skill or talent that I had. Like Paramore kind of happened in the wake of Avril Lavigne and Kelly Clarkson having her like kind of pop punk moment. Like there were a lot of women that were becoming really, really popular and very, commercially successful. And we were over here writing songs in, Taylor's garage and trying to, be a punk band or a heavy band. But we kind of really, it was like perfect time for us, to try and go get a record deal and like do this thing. I mean, even though we were kids, we were super ambitious. And like, I feel like I have to credit that movement and that little era of time with all those women that were doing some form of, what people thought was punk or pop punk at the time. We sort of got wrapped up into that, and it really it was twofold though, because I really hated being compared to other girls that were around my age. Then I started getting the Gwen Stefani comparison, and she was a good bit older than me, and I was like, I just am a girl. That's about all we have in common, and I don't, But I mean, it really took me until about 24, 25 to be okay, I think, with being female, like, and really like learning, okay, well, what does that mean to me? Because I think that it does mean something different to everyone. And I was just very like, God, like even at my wedding, I'm not married anymore, but got married once. It was, I wouldn't recommend it, but I wore like a wedding dress, but I had to wear combat boots with it. And
I wore boots to my wedding.
You did?
I wore knee-high white Docs, yeah.
Oh, well, that's actually way cooler. That sounds sick. Okay, I have a question for you.
I didn't think the conversation would go here, but let's talk about it.
I want to know, like, for you, psychologically, what was that like a fashion choice? Was there something happening internally?
No, many things happening internally.
Okay.
I was a person that, okay, let's talk about it.
Let's go.
I was a person that always knew that I wanted to be partnered. I mean, in fact, some might diagnose it as a sickness, the level to which I pursued being partnered. Not to say I hunted people down, but like I'm a person who I thrive in a domestic environment.
Yeah.
However, never looked at a bridal magazine, never was it like that just wasn't me. And didn't picture my wedding day. If ever I pictured my wedding day, it was only because of like The Cure. Like, what if I did a Cure-inspired wedding? What if that was my wedding? Just weird wedding things. And so when it came to, and I mean, the person that I married and divorced, many years later, we were together 5 years before. So it also it wasn't like, it was like, oh, this is fun. Let's get married while we're still in love. We were already well into a partnership. No, but you know what I mean? It wasn't that oh my God, this is so much fun. Let's get married in the first month, which can work out for some people. In any event, the first dress, I went to a Victorian weird store in Santa Monica. First dress I tried on, that's the one I bought. I was not curious about other dresses. It wasn't even a wedding dress. It was a lace 1920 kind of party dress. It was awesome.
Yes.
It was really wicked.
Yeah.
And anyway, my mother ended up wearing a wedding dress to my wedding.
Thank God.
Someone had to.
Yeah.
So, yes, so it was a very I'm different, I'm weird, don't think that I'm gonna, just because I'm getting married, don't think I'm gonna conform to what you think. And I'm very traditional a lot of ways. And also I'm, I had a religious Jewish wedding. I'm a person who really is I'm very faith-based. I'm, I'm part of the patriarchy as part of a person who's, Jewish, and I get it, meaning my religious, my religious underpinnings are based as everything is in the patriarchy, but it was definitely I want to be I'm comfortable. I'm a comfortable female. I don't need to kill. I didn't diet. I didn't do a fast for my, none of that. I mean, maybe I should have. I don't know. Okay. So what was your experience?
Well, I didn't diet either, but I think I just wasn't eating. I just wasn't feeling too good. I'm super it's kind of eerie listening to someone else kind of say stuff to me that feels like it's also coming from within me. Because I was very similar. I was in a relationship for a long time and probably knew at some point no, time to get off this ride. But I kept going, and I had never given a shit about a wedding, a dress. I don't even think I planned any part of mine, to be honest with you. But I digress, because the main point of this for me was to tell you, I wore boots, like combat boots, because I literally think there was a part of me that I was going into some sort of a battle. Like I was like, I don't know. And they were so heavy because, you know, they were the docks that are like platform. And it was like, I was like, doom, doom, coming down the aisle.
Look, it's Godzilla getting married.
Yeah, but it just, you know, like, look, no shade.
Love is a battlefield, you know?
Yes,
Love
right.
is a battlefield.
It just wasn't good. That wasn't a good thing for me, good time
Okay, but
for me.
we don't want people to think that if you want to wear combat boots to your wedding, that means
Right.
it's not a good idea.
No, please wear combat boots to your wedding, is what I'm saying. But
In fact, we're releasing our own line of combat boots for those people who know that they shouldn't be getting married but do it anyway.
it's just
It's co-branded.
all I think is that you need to know why you're getting married. Maybe that's
Well, yes.
Well, I'm super
That's it.
curious about that point because all three of us have been married and decided that that wasn't for them and left marriages.
Oh my,
And
wow.
Wait, hold on. You just said left marriages.
Well, marriages-
That's not. Hold on, Jonathan. I'm a public person. You can't say that.
okay, what,
And she's a public person. You can't say that.
you
My
are no longer
Bialik left
married,
her
so
marriage.
there was a leaving of some kind. No, that's not correct
No.
language.
That's still not right.
Okay, correct. Adjust for the record.
The three of us, for a variety of different reasons, we were married. We're no longer.
Not anymore.
Okay, so back to where I was going. I'm going towards the intuition, the knowing of, wait a second, where you said, like, you were on a ride, you were like, I don't think I should be on this ride anymore. And yet a lot of people end up on that ride knowing and having really strong premonitions that maybe this isn't something that I want to do. And or sort of breaking down like, oh yeah, it seems like at about this time in a relationship, like that's what people do. They get married, which never cures anything.
Well, honestly, it kickstarted a lot of learning for me about the mind-body connection because I just wasn't healthy physically or mentally for a large part of that period of my life. You know, that story, throughout my 20s and into getting married. And I've started to have very physical manifestations of that gut feeling. The first time I ever saw an integrative doctor was because like I was getting these like whelps on my wrists and along certain places that, you know, this person kind of said some things to me that was like, oh shit, okay, this doctor is telling me my life and he just met me and he's guessing that what he's guessing is true. I'm just not maybe copying. I'm not like fessing up to much
But
of it.
he didn't wear army boots to his wedding like I did.
No. What did you wear, Jonathan, to your wedding?
This is the best.
Yeah, I tell this story and Mayim is like, oh, it sounds so romantic. I say it and it has the completely opposite.
Also, wait, he's Canadian, which all of a sudden becomes hot when he talks about the rain and hiking boots.
I eloped. I chose not to have anyone at my wedding primarily because I couldn't
There was too much love. It couldn't be contained.
No, it was a logistical nightmare and I didn't want to plan an event. And I didn't want to deal, you know, I've said this directly, like, to my mother, who may or may not be listening. I'm sorry, Mom. She got extremely mad because her entire next 5 years was she wasn't invited to her son's wedding. And my narrative was that it was an absolute, like, I was totally overwhelmed. It was,
right.
I'm like, what is the least amount of effort that I can do to get this thing done?
Hiking boots.
And
that's
so
the least amount of effort.
It was in the rain. We lived in Victoria, British Columbia at the time, and
Yeah, you did.
we went out to a lookout. We had two of our friends, Laura and Alana, one of them who is no longer with us, and we had our post ceremony dinner at their house. They cooked us dinner, and that was it. And it was super. It's almost like it didn't happen.
God, I wish I could say that about mine.
Wow. Well, being a public person sure is different when you do that. I mean, I did it.
Damn.
Anyway.
Why didn't I meet you guys sooner? I'm just trying to figure that out.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Audible.
Audible is magic.
Storytelling right in my ears.
Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment all in one place. You can get audiobooks, bestsellers, new releases, celebrity memoirs. I like reading those. Languages, business, motivation, original entertainment from top celebrity creators, thousands of popular and binge-worthy podcasts. And as an Audible member, you get 1 credit every month, good for any title in the entire premium selection. That means the latest bestseller, the buzziest new release, the hottest memoir, or that bucket list title you've been meaning to pick up. New members can always try Audible for 30 days on Audible. With an Audible membership, download titles, listen offline anytime, anywhere. The app is free. It can be installed on smartphones and tablets. Listen across devices without losing your spot. That's really, really awesome. Keep your credits for up to a year. Use them to binge on a whole series if you'd like. If you're not loving your selection, just swap it out for another.
Visit audible.com/MBB or text MBB to 500-500. That's audible.com/MBB or text MBB to 500-500.
So weird they make me answer all these texts.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by BetterHelp. Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals?
Yes, he's sitting right next to me.
Ba-dum-bum.
BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist who can do things like help you if something is interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals. You can start communicating with a therapist in under 48 hours. This isn't self-help or a crisis line. This is professional counseling done securely, and it's all online. They have a broad range of expertise available, which may not be locally available in many areas.
Like couples therapy.
The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. We have a couples therapist. You just broke up with her because she didn't say what you want. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. You won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room like you do with traditional therapy. BetterHelp facilitates great therapeutic matches. They make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's so important to find the right person. BetterHelp and Jonathan and I want you to start living a happier life today. Visit their website. They post new testimonials every day. You can join the over 1 million people who've taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional.
And our listeners get 10% off the first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/break. That's betterhelp.com/break. Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by HELIX Sleep.
And HELIX Sleep supports my children and me, literally. My children were the first ones to have HELIX mattresses. And I got on that bed and I was like, I need this for myself. HELIX Sleep has this really awesome little quiz that takes 2 minutes to complete, and I took it. It matches your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. And let me tell you, I got the perfect mattress for me. Everyone's unique, and HELIX knows that. They have several mattresses. There's different models to choose from. You can choose soft, medium, firm. There are mattresses great for cooling you down if you're a hot sleeper. There's even a HELIX Plus mattress for plus-size sleepers. I took the quiz. I was matched with the HELIX Midnight mattress because I wanted something medium, and I sleep on my side. I mean, I kind of sleep all over the place. And don't be like, I want to get the mattress Mayim Bialik has. Take the quiz. Find the mattress that you're supposed to take. Order the mattress that you're matched to, and the mattress comes right to your door in a very small box. It's really amazing. It's shipped for free, and you don't ever need to go to a mattress store again, which is like the next closest thing to hell if you're me. Go to helixsleep.com/breakdown, take the 2-minute sleep quiz, and you'll be matched to a customized mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. I literally don't want another mattress for the rest of my life. I mean, I'll replace this one when it wears out. You get a 10-year warranty, and you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. They'll even pick it up for you if you don't love it, but they won't fit it back in that tiny box. But I'm sure you will love it.
Also, HELIX is offering $200 off all mattresses and 2 free pillows for our listeners at helixsleep.com/breakdown. That's helixsleep.com/breakdown for up to $200 off and 2 free pillows.
What were we talking about
Mind-body
before we got
connection,
into Jonathan's
intuition.
Jonathan's
Yeah.
Like
hiking
living
boots?
also, I think, so I had the experience that it was about 4 years after I got married where things were like super stressful, and I began to have, they weren't welts, but they were I don't know what to call them, but they were like marks that started on my torso. And literally one of them started, and my stress just kept getting higher and higher and higher. And eventually my entire torso was covered in these splotches. And I was also seeing an integrative doctor, and they're like, yo, you are like just out of your mind stressed. And it was this conflict of knowing that my life wasn't going in a principle and in an alignment that felt okay for me, and me feeling trapped and constantly like not understanding how I could care so deeply about someone and want the best for them, but not want to play the role that they wanted me to play or that I was currently signed up for, and how to like transition out of that. And it just felt, and as I began to deal with that, this whole thing on my torso began to resolve itself. But it was like this powerful external signal of like wrongness that I couldn't get my head around.
Yeah, because your body will make you listen. And then I read Your Body Keeps the Score not long after all of this, because I was just like, holy shit. It felt like once I started to pull the thread, it was just this ball of yarn that was never ending. And, so many weird things happen with my health. And I still feel like I am trying to make sure I'm staying on top of it, because I don't want to go back down this path where I'm so disconnected from the body and from my gut intuition and all that I, come back to a situation like that. That's so real what you're talking about. Like I try to talk to like some of my family, like my dad or my granddad, like super Southern dudes. And they're just like, what? go get some Tylenol. It's like, it just, there's not like, there's so much spiritual and soul like realm to health and mind body connection. All of that is spiritual.
And that's actually what I was going to kind of get into next, because, for people listening, much of this, I'm being super honest with you, much of this might sound to people like, well, there's 3 elitist white people talking about integrative doctors and mind-body syndrome and all this stuff. As someone who grew up, I mean, I didn't grow up with money, and I grew up in the Kaiser system because my dad was a public school teacher, and that was the insurance that we were given. And, sometimes it was hit and sometimes it was miss. And, this is not to say there's anything wrong with a large hospital system, but anytime there's a large bureaucratic organization, it's hard to just like get someone on the phone, get the same doctor, get a call back, like just basic things. And it's very, very difficult to realize that many, 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 many people have to navigate a system just to get basic health care. That is so devastating. However, one of the most interesting aspects, I think, of our culture's conversation about these kinds of things, which is starting, is to try and remove it from the realms of like, Eastern philosophy says, which it's true. Eastern philosophy has been saying all this stuff for thousands of years, like Ayurvedic principles, which come from India, like that stuff actually does have some science to it. Like it's not just, but the notion that many, I'm not going to say all, I really want to say all, but I'm not going to be that extreme. Many of the things that plague us, both physically and mentally, in many cases can and should be addressed from a naturopathic perspective, meaning the foods that are available to us, the economy that we live in that makes certain foods available to certain populations more preferentially than others, like those are things that impact our physical health, but also our mental health is connected, our mental wellness is connected to what we eat and how our bodies function. So what you get is that people don't want to talk about it. And I happen to be a vegan person, which, I try not to talk about too much because it annoys people. But I'm a vegan person for whom we know that all of us should be eating more fruits and vegetables and grains and whole foods, right? Mm-hmm. And the notion that if that were more of a priority to our government, to our healthcare system, that we could literally prevent things like high blood pressure and things like, type 2 diabetes, things that we know, are linked to what we eat. So what if we were to approach mental wellness that way to say, these are the practices, like teaching children to meditate and breathe correctly is not something for rich white children. It's something that every child should be taught how to calm their system, like it's just like that's it's a human right. So it's really interesting that we can talk about it at this level and be like, well, my integrative doctor says this, and like, Jonathan's like, I'm taking these supplements for my stomach, and like, but it's like that's fantastic.
But also, there is an enormous amount that is wrong with people that Western medicine has no approach for. When you have spots all over your torso and they're like, well, take this.
Oh, they'll just rub
steroid
cortisone
cream
all
in
over
order
you. Yeah, just rub the cortisone on you. Just smear it
and
around.
there's this massive influx of autoimmune diseases across society, and people have no idea what's causing them, and people's immune systems are literally attacking themselves. Well,
I have a thyroid condition, yeah.
So, like, it's not so hippie or out there to be like, well, there's a massive gap that Western medicine isn't filling, and so what is wrong with us? Are we all just broken, or there's some other things that we're not considering?
Well, we are all just broken, if you learn nothing from this podcast, except that we're all broken.
And that's the end.
No,
Thanks,
but,
everyone, for listening.
Thanks for listening. Hope you like Hayley. No, but I was diagnosed. I have an overactive thyroid, which is unusual because I'm terminally unique. And my overactive thyroid kicked in, I was in my early 20s, and I was very, very, very sick. You get very sick if your thyroid, you get sick for a lot of reasons, but I was very, very sick. And the Western solution was shut off her thyroid. And they do that with a lot of pills. It took 17 pills a day. That was my regimen. And the fact is, Western medicine was absolutely right. If you shut down the thyroid, it's going to stop going haywire. But it had absolutely no impact on why my thyroid was out of control.
Right.
And for that, I did choose and I didn't have money then. I was literally on student health care. I literally was trying to figure out, but what's going to happen if you take me off these pills? We haven't changed anything about my body. And that's really the difference between, kind of this integrative approach that you're talking about and Western medicine, which is it's bothering you, put the, if I could count the number of times someone's tried to give me cortisone in my life.
Jeez, I know.
They love to give you
it's
cortisone.
It's their favorite.
What did they do for your arm or your wrist welts?
Cortisone until I went to this integrative doctor, because I went to a dermatologist or something,
right.
Someone that I was like, it's on my skin, so I'm gonna go see a skin doctor. And it literally burned it. It made it worse.
Yeah, it's strong stuff.
Shit, man. I'm at this point, I might have well just eaten it, because I would have done about as what.
Are you a Louise Hay person?
Am I a Louise Hay person?
Do you know who Louise Hay is?
Now I
we're
feel
going. No. We're going deep.
Go.
We're going deep. Louise Hay is a woman who you could Google. She's 7,010 years old. No, I don't know how old she is. She's been around and in kind of holistic-y circles.
Okay.
She's known for a lot of beautiful writing and very kind of positive psychology stuff, but in particular, she talks about the parts of the body and what they mean.
Oh,
yeah. And so she literally you can just pull up the Louise Hay essentially encyclopedia of and it's just and it's alphabetical. So my spots are knees, ankles, back, which is all who will stand up for me? Things like that. I can't even. And after my divorce, my ankles started going out because I literally could not stay. It felt like the ground was being pulled out from under me. It's fascinating. So I kind of want to talk to you more and see if we can see if Louise Hay was right. I'm looking. Jonathan,
Holy
do you know what wrist means?
I don't, but there's also another guy, Michael J. Lincoln, who does this book, Messages from the Body, which Louise Hay's book is a couple of inches thick. He has a double volume of 400 pages.
No, we're
each,
going
which
abbreviated.
Is really next level.
We're going
anyway,
abbreviated.
But let's stick with the Louise. Also, we need to hear how the wrist situation resolved itself, because maybe there's a whole story there that we need to get into. But let's start with Louise Hay.
Oh. Yeah, I want to hear that.
I kind of want to hear more. The wrist started after the relationship.
The wrist thing was right after my engagement.
Oh,
interesting.
There we go.
Interesting. Stop it. Okay, hold on one second.
All right.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to tell you what Louise Hay says, and we'll see.
Come on, Louise.
And people are going to be like, she's going to say whatever Louise said is right. It's movement and ease, meaning constriction.
Jesus.
Stop it! She just had her Louise Hay moment. That was it.
That was it. Also,
love
hands
her.
are about what we grasp onto, what we hold on to, and so wrists connected to hands are we're holding on to things that maybe we're not supposed to. So you could get wrist constriction.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the movement thing I definitely
Let's hear
I just sort of heard
how this lands for her.
I mean, okay, this is terrible because like my past life, may listen to this and then but you know what? Literally, fuck it. Okay, so constriction. Two things happened. I mean, I was. Oh my god, I can't believe this is. I'm gonna say all this.
Wait, but also hold on. I'm gonna protect you briefly.
Okay.
Some people might feel more constricted than others, even in any engagement. Like you don't have to. You don't like. It doesn't. Jonathan's like, but I want to know what happened.
I want to know.
Like it doesn't. No. I'm just gonna say that you may be a person who might have been particularly sensitive to this notion of a lack of movement. You know what I mean? Like I don't want you to feel like you have to be like, well, I felt trapped. No, because marriage is it's a trap. I mean, in some ways it's a beautiful trap and it's a beautiful place to be held. But if you have conflict around that, or if that's a thing, it's just fascinating that for you it might have come out as this lack of movement or shift in movement does not feel right in my body. Yeah.
Well, I mean, nothing really felt right in my body at the time, but it was a very not great relationship. It was a very, there was some cheating that happened. There was some shit that went down, and I was trapped. I was trapped for a lot of reasons, and I write about, like, we were writing an album at the time, around the same time, and I kept asking Taylor, who's I'm in the band with, and we write all the songs together. I was like, you keep sending me these happy tunes, and I'm just like sad as fuck. I need you to send me a sad song. And when he did, it was about like feeling. I sing about being kind of seeing the world from the window now. This is my place now. I'm stuck here in this place right inside the window. This is my view. It doesn't matter if I travel or do things anymore because
that's so movement.
That's crazy. But yeah, I mean, a lot of things happen. This is why I read the book, that Body Keeps a Score book, and started to take more seriously like integrative medicine and all that, because I had so much going on with my physical that was because I had not accepted a lot of things. I think internally my body was just begging me to like wake up.
I had a series of years, and honestly, it was after my divorce, for about 7 years after, where I was either having surgery or recovering from surgery. I had 4 hernias. I had vocal cord surgery. Like, literally, I lost my voice.
Oh, geez.
I mean, like, it was taken from me. So I had like a whole, and, it caused a tremendous amount of reckoning for me, because one of my defects is I'm an overdoer, and my drug is work. Like
totally.
And it's not just work, it's running from every other feeling because work. Yeah. It's like emotions can't hit a moving target is like one of my terrible mottos. But oh dear. Did I break you?
That's so good. It's so good.
Well, it's like that's what it was. It was just like, watch me work. And if I don't work, then I'll try and like eat. And if I don't, and if I'm not dating the guy, if I don't have the he, like if I don't have that to fix and mold, then I'm just going to like work and like watch how productive. I don't need a man because I'm so productive,
She's very productive.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's right.
Totally.
No, but when my body started saying no, I didn't listen. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. Like, I listened in snippets. It was talking from a long time ago. Like, it was talking from a long time ago. And, it's kind of like if you believe in a higher power, it's like, okay, you're going to keep giving me this message until I do something about it. It was a reckoning. And I think my vocal cord surgery was, that's a big one. When you can't speak for 3.5 months, like literally no speaking. It felt like the universe said, sit down and shut up. That's kind of what I did. So I'm actually curious, like looking back, you had said like your body, it's kind of like a toddler. It'll start by just being like, mama, and then it'll be like, mama. And then there's like a tug, and then like things get thrown, and then you punish the kid when they were just trying to get your attention. Anyway, so it's like, I get mad at my body. Like, how could you betray me? And it's like, because we were trying to tell you, we tried to tell you this, that, and the other way. For me, like a spiritual solution has been, part of that kind of recovery. But I'm curious kind of what it looked like. What did sort of I don't want to say breaking down, but what did I don't want to say disintegration. These are all ugly words. But, what did that sort of reckoning look like? And then, how do you come out on the other side of it?
Well, I think I'm still coming out on the other side of it, because like you said, like 7 years, it felt like you were, that was a period of your life. I kind of track it by Paramore albums because for me, so much of my life has been wrapped around these album cycles.
I think that's true for a lot of your fans as well.
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, the last album that we made came out in 2017. And I feel like I wrote all the songs with the guys, like before I was diagnosed with depression and PTSD, before I asked for a divorce, but if you listen to it, you would think I had just been diagnosed with these things and I had just kind of accepted all these, but it was there was such a disconnect, So I was writing unconsciously these songs, kind of doing my job, having fun with it. But the first sign of healing for me, I remember my mom saying like, "Oh, I haven't heard you laugh like that in a very, very long time." And that was, a year into touring After Laughter. And then, we came off the road. We decided to have a short album cycle. And much of that album cycle I spent drinking a lot and just kind of partying with my friends that, I grew up in this band with. It was kind of like a free-for-all because now I'm not tethered to this unhealthy relationship anymore. I'm with my friends from high school, and we're just hanging out, traveling the world, meeting our favorite bands and meeting cool people and doing cool things. And, it was like, to your point, just distraction. Mm-hmm. And it was really when I came home from After Laughter 2.5 years ago that everything kind of fell apart. I had to go to like a therapy, like retreat kind of situation. And that's where I learned about EMDR and
you've done the whole thing. Got it.
Dude. Yeah. And it's like
I'm trying to send Jonathan to one of those. He won't go. He keeps showing up here.
This is better than I would have done before I went to that therapy thing. Like I was so resistant, so I get it.
Did you go voluntarily to this thing or did they put you there?
I actually went voluntarily. It's my mom had been trying to get me to go for years, and my mom teaches at Belmont School. She teaches like a emotional wellness and emotional intelligence course for people that are going into the industry.
Wow.
Which is so badly needed, I think, for anyone young coming into entertainment, whether it's management side or otherwise. It's like it's such a social and psychological game, and you have to be really on it about protecting yourself, and I just wasn't. And so I finally let my guard down and went to this thing, and I did not feel, I don't know if you have this experience with certain therapies or modalities, but like I didn't feel like it did anything until like 2 or 3 months later, and then I had a moment where I was like, wait, I didn't just process that the way I normally would have processed that, And so, I mean, I'm still very much in that phase of my life where I'm like, oh, I used to use this hand to do this, but now I'm using this hand. Like it's a lot of discomfort.
So take us back to sort of this diagnosis moment because, obviously people talk about depression and we've talked about it here and, because I am trained in the neuroscience world, I tend to be very specific and very clinical about things, meaning, we've talked about the differences, for example, between grief and depression. There's depression also in terms of, bipolar disorder, and then there's just regular depression. Then there's what people like me live with, which is just kind of dysthymia, meaning like I just kind of operate underneath what most people would consider as like normal, happy. Like it's not necessary. It's a lot of black nail polish and army boots like all year round. Can you tell us a little bit, about what it looked like for you? And again, I hope we're not asking because we want the dirt. For a lot of people who listen to our podcast in particular, many people are literally identifying for the first time things that they've known for years, just never kind of. So what did it look like for you? And then who gave you that label? Did the label help or did it hurt?
No, actually the label helped because I had written lyrics to the last record, and we had reviews come out before the album was even officially out yet. There was a couple of reviews came out that were like, Paramore wrote a depression bop album. And I was like, what? And I was really careful. I didn't want to use the word depression. I felt like this is a clickbaity kind of word in a time in our culture that, people are, it's just that word gets thrown around a lot, right? So I didn't want to be one of those. I didn't want to add to that noise. So it took, it was like almost 2 years after we had written that record that I was officially diagnosed. And it was kind of the same thing. It was like, you operate kind of low and you may always need a little bit of assistance. It doesn't mean that I can't strive to like meet that goal alternatively besides medication, but I've needed medication. And
thank you for sharing that. It's very important for people to hear,
Yeah, I think a lot of creatives are scared of different types of medication because, if it affects your mind, like how's that going to affect your creativity? But
sure.
I will say that to me, there's a comfort that I get from darkness and sadness and
it's melancholy,
depression.
It's the stuff of great art.
It's very delicious to me, and I have found that when I'm treated the right way, when I'm treating my depression the right way, I still have access to my sadness, which is so vital to me to feel all the spectrum of my feelings. But it does not wake me up in the morning. I get up in the morning and there's like possibility again, and there's like, oh, what do I want to do today, or what do I need to do today? Let me get myself going. When I'm at my lowest and not operating correctly, I literally don't want to get out of bed. I can't really move. So, so I'm a big advocate for, if it feels right to you to take medication, then you just go for it. And it was very freeing to be diagnosed, because it's like, God, when you can't name a problem, that is so agonizing for me, when it's like, it's right there and I can't name it. It's like right in front of me. So it was liberating.
And so this intensive therapy, how long were you at this place?
I was there almost a week.
Wow. Was it really pretty? I always imagine those places are really pretty.
It was pretty. It wasn't like, like I've heard about those places out in Malibu and stuff.
It wasn't like that? Okay.
No, it was, near here, where I live. But yeah, I think more than anything, it was like permission to shut down, permission to have a break. I didn't have my phone.
Oh, I love it.
It was really, especially when coming off of tour, which that can be such emotional whiplash anyways. It was, I don't know, it was all at once, like it felt scary and awful because it was so new. But then at the same time, it was like, oh, this is permission. This is permission to feel, permission to flatline if I need to for a little bit, and not, the expectation isn't here that I have to, fucking dog and pony show my way through it.
Mayim Bialik's breakdown is supported by Third Love.
It's none of your business, but Third Love has given me the best bra experience of my life. Third Love uses the measurements of millions of women to design bras with all-day comfort and support. Like, there's a real science to how they do this. I am hard to fit, and I have literally my favorite bra ever. The Fitting Room Quiz is a fun and super easy interactive experience that focuses not just on size, but on breast shape, current fit issues, and your personal style to deliver bras and undies that are a perfect fit for you. It's time to break up with your bad bra, fall in love with better bras and underwear. Third Love is changing the game, from loungewear and wireless styles to their #1 rated, I have it, 24/7 classic t-shirt bra. It's the ultimate shopping experience. Third Love knows your one true fit is out there, so right now they're offering our listeners 20% off your first order. Go to thirdlove.com/breakdown now to find your perfect fitting bra, like I did, and get 20% off your first purchase. That's thirdlove.com/breakdown for 20% off today.
Mayim Bialik's Breakdown is supported by Stamps. Are you still going to the post office, Mayim? Still paying full price for postage?
Well, thanks to Stamps.com, I don't have to anymore. I can mail and ship anytime, anywhere, right from my computer. I'm a person who loves to send things. I send letters, I send packages, and I get to pay a lot less with Stamps.com. There's discounted rates from USPS, UPS, and more. They save businesses thousands of hours and tons of money every year. Stamps.com brings the services of the U.S. Postal Service and UPS right to your computer. It's a must-have for any business. Use your computer to print official U.S. postage 24/7 for anything. Once the mail's ready, just schedule a pickup or drop it off. It's that simple. Stop wasting time going to the post office and go to Stamps.com instead. There's no risk. With our promo code BREAKDOWN, you get a special offer. It includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts.
Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in Breakdown. That's Stamps.com, promo code Breakdown. Stamps.com. Never go to the post office again.
What's it like to be a public person in that arena? Do people, obviously you're recognizable, but, that's sort of one of my greatest fears just as a human being who is a known person is like, which is why it's so scary to do what we do here, because it's like, here are all the things about me,
Right, it's amazing.
But in particular, like, that is a fear of mine that, and, there's been more than 4 times in my life where I've thought of going away. I mean, more than 4 for sure, but like 4, in the last
We
5. You know what, Jonathan? That's not helpful. I'd say in the last handful of years, there's been, I don't want to say once a year, but there's been, something, over the last 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like always one of my fears because, of course, we have the right to break down like everybody. And we have the right to do all this things. But, there's a level of being exposed, which is true for everyone. And also, if there is that notion of like being observed, like, is that a thing? I mean,
you're speaking words straight out of my, like that. This is how I feel about it too. And I have other friends that do music or that have done things like this and they don't have any problem with, they're just like, whatever, everyone's fucked up. We just go and we just talk. But I actually went and just did it by myself. Like there was meant to be a group thing. But and again, this goes back to what you're talking about earlier. I realized that that's not really something that everyone can just do. But I was terrified to be around people, to talk about my story, and I don't know at the time anyways, if I would have even been able to get to where I needed to get if there had been someone watching. Because I know that no one cares. I know that really everyone's just thinking about themselves.
I know, but I still worry. I worry for you, but I worry for me. I worry for all people who are being vulnerable in front of other people, even if you're not a public person. But for sure, it's something that I definitely think about. So
yeah, I just think that fortunately now I think there's more and more resources for it, and regardless of the job and what you do and why someone may recognize you, I do think that there are just tons of people that, even like college-aged kids that are just going to school and stuff that need that one-on-one safety, and there's an organization in town in Nashville called Porter's Call that the guys and I have used off and on since we were young, and they do free therapy for writers, musicians, people that are in the arts and doing creative work, and especially for like, artists that don't support themselves well yet. And I think that knowing that there's resources like that are cropping up, that's really encouraging to me.
So the intensive kind of therapy situation obviously sounds very important, and something that I believe you're still kind of, in the process of. I don't want to say in the middle of, but like, that's not stuff that's like, oh, I did that, everything's great.
Right.
But can you pinpoint, like for me, I can definitely say that in sort of my process of just being an adult, which I did not think was going to be this complicated, honestly, like
Right.
I really thought that like, oh, at some point I'll like get married, like as soon as humanly possible, and then everything will be fine. And like, oh, the life is very different. So in my process of learning to be an adult, I can definitely say like, okay, I have a lot of fear. I have a lot of resentment. I have trauma. Like, those are kind of the things. So I'm curious for you, kind of like, out of all of this, and you did mention PTSD, so obviously that's a thing, but can you point to other things, or like what are the things for you that you feel like, oh, this was what was having me going down a path that I decided I don't want to be on? What, like for some people it's like, oh, addiction, and it's like, okay, I work a program,
right.
But what is it, or what was it?
Well, I mean, the women on my mom's side of the family are like notoriously bad at choosing partners or something because it's just run in the family.
Yeah.
There is, I learned a lot about, I mean, hopefully everyone learned a lot about generational trauma over the last year because of, the BLM conversation and all of that. But even just in everyone's super personal life, I think anyone could probably find a thread, like a through line of some theme or whatever. And with my family, in particular on my mom's side, it's there's a lot of abuse and just, and I don't want to tell my mom's story for her or anything, but what I went through, even just with her when she was married to her second husband, it was traumatic. Like there are things I truly don't remember at all. And she'll tell me something that was like so important, that was such an impactful day in our life. And I've literally blacked it out. And, and then she has some of those things and I'll try to talk to her about it. And she'll be like, we don't talk about that. It was really bad. And even now, like it's still a new thing to get words around because I dealt with it so in here for so long. That's why I was a writer. I'm sure, that was my escape from it. But talking about it and bringing it into, between us right now that's a whole new exercise for me. And I think it's healing. I think it's a new way of expression that I'm maybe less comfortable with than writing on writing down it on paper. But it was mainly that there's a lot of religious stuff too. Growing up in Mississippi as a child, like Southern Baptist, I was in a play called Heaven's Gates and Hell's Flames when I was like 7.
Oh, yeah.
Just
simple. I know what side of that you and I were on, Jonathan. Do you want to talk a little bit? Because also, like, I do happen to be a person, a reasonable person or a sciencey person of faith. But there is a lot surrounding, and again, the problem is not so much God or religion, it's humans. But many people find also a lot of, I'm not diagnosing you, but there's, because you haven't indicated anything around this, but a lot of obsessions and compulsions can actually come up surrounding religion in particular and religious training. So I'm not saying that was your experience, but I do want to acknowledge that while religion does many positive things, there's also a structure and an implementation by even well-meaning people that can be very upsetting, especially, I like to talk about like, well, we're so resilient and most people are like fundamentally the same, meaning in terms of like our makeup. But the fact is you don't know what kid you're getting. I always point this out to people, especially when the subject of hitting comes up. You don't know what predisposition that kid has for extreme trauma from being screamed at or hit. Like, you don't know. And so hopefully they'll be okay. It's kind of how most people like, and a lot of people didn't even think about it, but I think the same is with religion. Like, you don't know. You could be trying to imprint on a child something that's very, very damaging to them. My older son, we sent him to camp. We sent him to a little Jewish, like a day camp. This was years ago. He's 15. He might have been 8 when this happened. He told me now that the instructor said that think of yourself when you go to sleep like a cell phone that needs to be charged. And sometimes God will unplug your charger and you won't wake up. Now, it's like, I'm sorry, he told you what? And this happened like 7 years ago, and I never knew this. And it turned him off to that particular branch of religious observance.
Yeah, no
because he's like, Mama, it wasn't, and he told me this last week, it wasn't even that like they said that sometimes God forgets, because like, whoops. It was that God makes a conscious decision
Just unplug it.
to not plug me in or to unplug me. Like I'm thinking Matrix.
Your mother told a story
Yes.
recently on an episode that we released about her belief that God was standing behind her door in her bedroom every night and watching her, and she was terrified.
Terrifying.
My God.
So tell us your religious trauma. Let's play this game.
Oh, fuck. Oh, well, first of all, this is a game that me and my friends play all the time. We grew up in the South, so it's the Bible Belt. I was from Mississippi. It was already, if this tells you anything, like moving to Nashville was culture shock for my mom and I. We were like, oh my God, contemporary Christian music. What is this? And I honestly, it will be a forever thing that I will be untying some of the knots. But I mean, only recently did I remember this play that I told you guys about. This was like an evangelical play that toured around, I'm sure the southeastern region.
We know it.
Of
Mayim and I
America.
reenact that play all the time.
Our relationship is that play.
Oh my God. Well, wow. It was there was a scene where I was, with my mom, my real mom was in this with me, and we were like, la-di-da, we're walking across the stage, which is in this case supposed to be just like a street. We're, innocently crossing the street, probably jaywalking. It's probably why we died. But
God hates a jaywalk.
We got hit.
Hold on. This is getting good.
And so someone hit us, we die, and I go to heaven up a very real set of stairs that are so steep and so it was very tough for my little legs, but I made it to heaven. And then
yeah, you did.
My mom was quite literally dragged to hell by a Luciferian looking, very cheaply, made Satan.
Because her legs weren't strong enough, or were there other reasons?
No, there was the drama. I mean, that was the drama of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just talking to a friend about this the other day, and they were like, "Oh my God, I saw that play," and I was like, "You saw my mom go to hell?" It was very. But at the time, I was a kid, and everyone in that church thought we're doing the right thing, And I don't know. I mean, there's no better example of preaching to the choir in history than that right there, but. I quickly, when I moved here to Nashville, I met the guys that I play in a band with at a church school, homeschool thing. It was we were made fun of so badly in the press when we were kids because, the first time we went to England, they were like, what the fuck? Where are you guys, aliens from? You guys are crazy. And, and I was pretty, unabashed. I was okay. I wasn't super strict within myself and what I thought about God, but I will say so much trauma happened without me knowing. And then especially to my guy friends, because I'm in a band with all dudes. So it's I hear their stories and it's pretty bad. I feel first of all, being a young girl in a youth group at the time, maybe it's different now, but it's we weren't, the boys got the sex talk and the porn talk and all of that stuff. And the girls, it's just, you're not even a sexual being, you're just a bait, and that's how I was made to feel. It was like almost I was weaponized, you know. And I think that was probably a small layer of me making myself smaller and trying to fit in with the guys and just be one of the guys all the time, you know.
Does religion play any supportive role in your life? Obviously, there's, aspects of spirituality which sort of cross into religion, and curious how that lands for you now.
I would say, you know, maybe very loosely. I am still figuring out just how deep some of the cuts are, that, you know, that the wounds that like I'm still figuring it out. I don't know what I believe. And I'm comfortable with that right now. Doesn't mean I will always be. And I know there's something. I know there's God, but maybe just not God that I was taught. You know, I definitely don't think the God that I was taught that's not what I subscribe to.
I think it's super important as we learn something that, had its place at that time, but then we reconnect with a different understanding of what those principles are, and we reconfigure the positive aspects, because I can jokingly talk about the sort of downside that people have experienced, but there's a huge amount of connection in religion for so many people that I don't, and I joke a lot on this podcast, but I don't want people to think that I'm, so dismissive as to be inconsiderate.
I think it's really cool that you say that, because my sort of reflex is to kind of bash this way I used to be, or kind of talk down to that version of myself, or to this ideal that we all tried to live up to for a certain time in our life. And it's not helpful. And I often will feel just kind of it just doesn't feel helpful. I feel sticky or something after that. And I listen to Pete Holmes a lot on his podcast, You Made It Weird. And, he has some conversations with Richard Rohr that are so wonderful. And I've learned a lot. And I've also learned a lot about what I do believe and I mean, I think I already know what I don't. But when someone says something that resonates with you, sometimes it's easier if it's coming from somewhere else. You're like, oh yeah, that I don't know how to put words to that, but that makes sense. That clicks with me. That feels right. So I mean, I think I'm still in that mining process.
I also think that the intergenerational trauma piece fits directly into all of this, because whether it's a religious ideal or a family ideal or some unresolved family issue, perfectionism or broken relationship that doesn't get resolved, we're seeing more and more that it may not play out exactly the same in the next generation, but the thread of it is still there. And
yeah, totally.
There's a modality called family constellation therapy, which is way, way out there. And
Is that internal family systems, or is that a different thing?
It is. Well, I don't know if internal family systems, if this is a naming convention and maybe they're the same sort of thing. But, the way I've experienced them is that it's in a group setting, and there's a facilitator, and often it can be in groups of 10 or even 20. And there's almost no talking involved, but it is almost like tableaus of family systems are played out, where someone sits in a chair who's receiving the constellation, and there's a facilitator, and whatever issue is being had, Mayim is because this is going way deep out there. So if you're listening to the audio, you got to see Mayim's face during this description. But the individual who's receiving a constellation may then choose a representative from the group to be a certain part of their life. It could be a pain, it could be something that they're working on, and then they'll pick other people to represent their parents or mother or family system. And literally what happens, and these people do not know each other often, most of the time, and they'll put them in relationship to each other in a circle, and I've been a representative, you can get a sensation in your body that you cannot describe as yours, which to me starts bending time and space, because they're if I can be a representative, there you go, there's Mayim's face again. If I can be a representative of a family system, then the energy of that system, which often is expressed as what we were calling intergenerational trauma, then these things have an energy and they can be embodied. And I've seen tableaus play out where like people can't look at each other, or they're like, they feel like I can't even go near that person because it feels so horrible, or I need to be right next to them. And like, how are you describing what these sensations that these people are feeling who don't even know the person or the family system that they're representing? And yet the person often in the chair is like, oh my God, that couldn't be more accurate. So it could be a collective delusion, or it could be the access of an entire...
Kind of like this episode just became. Well, I hate to be the voice of reason, but no, I think that one of the things that I was thinking also about, this concept of intergenerational trauma, which I think we're speaking the same language essentially, is that there are certain things that can make us sick even if we don't have them. You know, and that's usually like alcoholism is usually described like that. It's the disease that you can get even if you're not drinking, right? Because it affects the family, it affects the spouse, it affects the kids, it affects the whole system. So, for example, and I don't know and don't need to know necessarily specifics more about your family, but just what you talked about, if your mother was in a relationship that was painful and that was traumatic, even for her, even if you didn't even witness that, even if you lived in Antarctica while your mother had that relationship, she now carries that. And it's in everything she does. It lives in her. It's a thing. And I can say just from my experience, like my poor children, I've done as right by them as I could, but I know that they are carrying the Holocaust because that's what I was carrying, because that's what my mother was carrying, because that's what my grandparents were carrying, right? And then there's thousands and thousands of years that we get to play this game. And depending on how deep and spiritual, mystical, because I get out there too, this is why people do past life regressions and they talk about ancestral pain. And it's like, what is that? This is this notion, and it's very out there, but the most practical application of it is exactly what I said. Whatever your parents go through, whatever your caregivers go through, it lives in you. And if they were, quote, untreated, or they didn't get the help that they needed for the situation they were in, it's not even rocket science. It's like literally brain science. It's just like you get it by extension.
One of the philosophies of the constellation system or approach...
He's still on the constellation therapy.
...is that we, as a loving member of the group that we are a part of, we can't help but take it on as a sign that says, hey, we are a part of this group. Even if we think we've rejected the group and you want no part of it, there's still inherent in us is the desire to be a part of that group. And so in a loving way, we take on things that are not ours. And so a lot of health is...
Hayley's now a part of our group, Jonathan. We just took on things and she took on our things. We just made a family constellation right here.
I mean, it feels good, actually, guys.
Thank you. I want to thank you so much for coming on. I honestly wasn't sure, which particular direction, because I could talk to you about every aspect of your life for an hour. But what I really, really appreciate is you coming on while just being in the middle of life. Meaning, you said, I don't know many times, and it was beautiful because we don't have to know. We don't have to figure it out all in one day. And I really respect that, especially for what you're going through, what you're moving through, if you don't mind me, Louise, haying you again, for what you're moving through to just be like, here I am, that's incredibly inspirational. And yes, I also do believe in the things you believe in. I believe in, even if you don't feel like taking medication, if everyone's telling you need it, you probably should learn to feel like you should take it. No, but I believe in therapy. I believe in integrative medicine. I believe in learning about the mind-body connection. And also I believe in not knowing. So thank you for not knowing with us. Really a pleasure to talk to you.
Are we going on tour together?
Let's go. No,
you mean you and her?
No, all of us.
You stay here
That's
with
what
me.
I got from this conversation. I thought that we're all going on tour. Maybe I misheard.
We all just eloped. Mrs. Cohen, you missed the second wedding. That was very special because that's the person I would have hung out with, in junior high and high school. She's my friend.
If you had the same feet, you could have swapped boots.
yeah, like that's my people. I found a person.
I don't think she really had any notion that she was going to enjoy herself. I think she got dragged onto this podcast. She's like, who the heck are
Someone
these
called in a
two?
favor.
I've never heard about them before. This is some comedy person that maybe I knew about because I saw her face on a bus, and this other guy, what the heck's wrong with his beard? And she left, and I think we converted her.
I really was very, very touched by her humility with her process, like just as a human. And I could barely imagine going on a talk show to talk about not even myself within a year after my divorce. You know what I mean? Like even to talk about other things was so painful, to be that exposed. And I really, really appreciated just how she was willing to show up, and also how much she said, I'm still figuring it out. Like, she's still figuring it out. And yeah, she's younger than me, but she's not 15 and she's not 20. Like, she's a grown-up who's still figuring it out.
I have no idea how old anyone is. It's a deficit. I can't tell.
Ask Mayim anything. Yeah.
Mayim, hi. Thanks for the breakdown. I am leaving this message today because I'm interested in the concept of survivor trauma. But I'm talking about the kind that's passed from one generation to the next. I was born in France, but my parents fled a war, and my grandmother survived a genocide. I wanted to understand more about it because I always faced the reality of my family history. I even minored in genocide studies at university, but in recent months and also in recent years, I found it more difficult to deal with all of that, particularly since recent events in all three countries that I'm from. So any light that you could shed on that particular kind of trauma, why it's passed down and how it manifests would be most welcome.
Thank you so much, Viken. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, for a really, really eloquent question. And we obviously spoke about it in this episode, but I did want to add that the actual term intergenerational trauma, the concept was recognized in the 60s, and it was based on a group of studies by psychologists of children and grandchildren of people who had survived the Holocaust. And, this kind of notion that like, well, Jewish people are crazy, it's well and hard earned. And in many cases, especially for those of us of Eastern European descent, there's a very specific amount of trauma surrounding that period in history. Even if my grandparents, for example, were not in camps, in concentration camps, there still is a component of their existence, and many like them, who are known as survivors in this kind of community. And that creates a way of functioning in some ways which is not really reparable very easily. And, my family was, they were peasants. They did not have very good education. What education they had ended somewhere around middle school. So their vocabulary for being able also to process that kind of trauma in a culture that, first of all, was not necessarily supportive of it, but they were also taken then from their culture. They fled to America, which is amazing, but it's a very different cultural vocabulary. The Armenian genocide is, I think, possibly the genocide that you're describing, which was the Ottoman Turkish Empire killing 1.5 million Armenians. That was 1915. And this is another arena that we've seen some intergenerational trauma research in. I do want to also mention there's been some interesting studies of Aboriginal communities in Canada, and there was also a famine in Ukraine. So there are all these communities, unfortunately, all over the world that have allowed us to kind of, peek behind the curtain, as it were, to see what happens to the mental health and really the lives of people whose parents or grandparents and even great-grandparents have suffered greatly. And you know, this is one of those things that there's not a solution for, and I hope that was clear in the podcast we just did with Hayley. This is an ongoing conversation that we have in our families, and often with outside help, you know, with a therapist, with a counselor. You know, a lot of people come from crazy families, and we kind of talk about it like that. But in certain families, the wounds are very, very deep, and that creates an environment that can almost feel like a genetic predisposition, you know, to many things. Also, as Hayley mentioned, the Black Lives Matter movement has, I mean, I don't want to say introduced, but it has brought to the forefront, justifiably so, of many of our collective consciousness, the notion that the intergenerational trauma experienced by our Black brothers and sisters is real. The intergenerational trauma also from the indigenous communities of this country, and really every country that has experienced the extermination of an indigenous population. It's a real thing. And by that, I mean, for many of the generations I've been alive, there's been this notion of like, get over it. Why can't you get over it? And the fact is there are very real scientific reasons, and many of them are related to the structuring of a mental wellness kind of framework.
And institutionalized policies.
And institutionalized policies which are acting on, in addition, the trauma of communities that did not realize what was going on. That is kind of its own insult. So anyway, thank you for your question. We hope that was helpful.
Thank you to everyone who has submitted a question. If you would like to ask Mayim anything and Jonathan some things, you can do so at bialikbreakdown.com. That's BIA.
That's what?
That's BIA.
likbreakdown.com. Don't ask Jonathan what Enneagram number he is.
Because I'll be wrong, clearly. But Mayim will always be there to correct me. And thank you, everyone who has helped us and supported the show by leaving us a review. You can drop us that 5 stars. If you're listening on audio, you can always check out the YouTube channel as well. Click the little bell notification to get updates, because we're dropping episodes all the time now. You never know. We'll surprise you on a Thursday. There are no rules here. It can get crazy.
From our breakdown to the one we hope you never have, we'll see you next time.
It's Mayim Bialik's breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you. She's got a neuroscience PhD or 2. One fiction, one and now she's gonna break down